Hi babes, welcome to Hamilton's Halogen, and this is your friend, Carrie Hamilton. This is a place where darkness meets illumination and truth becomes your turning point. Just like a halogen light burns brighter and hotter to reveal darkness, this podcast is about bringing light into places that many avoid. If you've ever felt lost in the dark, this space is for you. It's time to stop surviving and start shining.
Respect, responsibility, results. Each and every single one of those three words build on top of one another. When I was in grammar school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, so what is that, 12, 13, 14 years old, we had a principal that came on every single morning, and before he began any morning announcements, he would say, respect, responsibility, results. Now, if you ask my 12, 13, 14-year-old self, I would have thought, oh, that means respect the teachers, be responsible for my work and homework, and then get the results that I need in school. Get myself together so that I could obviously have a good education and move on in life and graduate. But had I truly listened to those words at that 12, 13, 14-year-old me and applied them in my everyday life now at the age of 43 and all the years in between, I probably could have saved myself so much headache and hassle. Now let's talk about that first word, respect. Respect shapes your mindset. And if you are not new around here, you all know that the mindset is the steering wheel to your life. What you put in your mind, it's called neuroscience. What you apply your mind to is exactly what kind of life that you will live. So respect, this is how you value people, situations, and even yourself. Listening and honoring boundaries and recognizing worth, even if you disagree, that is real respect. Real respect is not just politeness and being kind to others. It's consistency in how you treat others and how you treat yourself. Now, before we move on from that word mindset, I want to reiterate something for those who are new here. Your mindset is based off of your past experiences, your beliefs, things that you were taught. They could be generational, but anything that you were told as knowledge, that is what you place your mindset to be. So therefore, if you were never taught something, how do you know what to do? You don't. So we go throughout life thinking that what we were taught was the right thing to do or the right thing to believe. And that's not actually necessary. Sometimes we just are going based upon generational things that were taught to us, and that doesn't actually mean that they're correct. So let's go back to that word respect. Some individuals were raised to be in fear or to be obedient or submissive or just have mere tolerance to things that are of authority or things that are controlling or maybe even abusive situations, like for instance, a father figure that would degrade or place threat upon someone, and that meant that you were to respect them. So you're actually misinterpreting what respect really is. You're actually thinking that if I place fear in someone, they'll respect me. So many people say, oh my God, I would never do that to my dad. He would beat me. They clearly have that fear inside of them. So that is where they base their respect off of. But realistically, that's confusing. That is a confusing of authority and controlling. You're confusing that as respect. So now when you go into life, you think that when you get a partner or when you get a child or, when you interact with other people, you think that if you place fear or specify your obedience or make them submissive to you, that they are giving you a form of respect. And actually, that is a form of abuse. Obedience and authority is actually an action. It's a compliance with an order or a request, or even in professional ways, a law. And you see, respect is actually a value. It's like you're valuing someone's boundaries. It's a courtesy. You're basically honoring or recognizing someone's environment and where they are as their value and worth. And this is very imperative because, one, as myself, who comes from childhood abuse, I was taught that respect was exactly as I stated. It was of fear, it was of tolerance, it was that I was to obey and be submissive to my superior abuser. And so as I grew older, I would then entertain individuals who were abusive, who were placing fear, who did basically show authority and, show and demand that respect that I placed in my head as respect, when really they were overstepping boundaries and being abusive and controlling. So why is it important that I address these things regarding respect? Well, you see, someone like myself who comes from childhood abuse, I learned respect as authority. I learned respect as in someone placing fear to me and me being submissive to their requests because that was showing that I respected them as a parental figure, versus the reality is they were disrespectful. They were abusive. And the last thing I should do is be respectful to them because of the fact that I am being disrespected and not knowing my value and worth. I devalued myself. So now as I went into adulthood, when people would show me that disrespect or basically put fear inside of me or make me be submissive to their requests of the obedience and for me to obey them and their rules and so forth, in my mind, I was respecting them. In my mind, I was showing love and care, but that isn't love and care at all. I was devaluing myself and making myself smaller so that someone could control me. That is abuse. Now let's talk about responsibility. Responsibility drives your actions. When you are being responsible or taking responsibility, you are taking ownership. This means that you are not blaming circumstances, you're not blaming other people, you're not blaming your past. You are taking charge of your choices, your decisions, your actions, and your reactions. Responsibility turns intention into action. It's where growth actually begins. Unfortunately, in today's society, many seek the victim mentality. They basically consider responsibility as self-blame or taking ownership of others' emotions or guilt. We live in a society that everyone is pretty much reactive instead of proactive. And this stems from unhealthy environments, codependency issues, and toxic guilt. You see, many think that taking responsibility means that you have to blame yourself or that you have to be at the obligation to make everything right or that you have to be controlling of whatever the outcome is to the situation. And while, yes, owning your actions and your choices is needed, it's not to be confused with self-blame or like managing others' emotions or even taking the action of guilt. It's actually being proactive, it's empowering, and it's focusing on your specific actions and reactions and how you maintain yourself as an individual in the situations that take place. It's a way of you addressing the bullet points of situations, taking ownership for your part in it, and seeing where you can grow, seeing where you can look at situations in different aspects and say, you know what, I'm taking ownership of this, I'm going to change whatever it is within myself. You're going to take the proactive approach so that next time you don't get in situations as such, because you already know your worth and value from the respect level, and then also you are taking ownership and how you could better yourself so that you never end in the situations that you do or have been in the past. And now lastly, results. Results are what reveal the truth. You see, these are outcomes of your actions. The results that they don't come from what you say or what you intend, they come from what you consistently do. And remember, we are all creatures of habit, and the only way to break habits or to put new habits into play is to consistently do the practice so that they become habitual, because your mind is always seeking what is healthy and what is of protection. So if you make something a consistent pattern, the brain doesn't know if it's healthy or unhealthy. What it knows is that if it's consistent and it's something of memory that it has done before, they automatically think that it's a healthy situation. This is why breaking from abusive situations, breaking from toxic situations, it is so hard to do, because you have trained your mind in that consistency, accepting that pattern, so your brain automatically thinks that that unhealthy situation is actually healthy, which is why it's so hard for people to leave abusive situations, because their mind has already taken that pattern as a safe place to be, even though it's unsafe. So consistency is key. No different than if you were to start a new workout program or to start a new diet. Keeping your life consistent is what breaks the patterns of old habits and old patterns, so that you can have the results that you want or that you need to feel healthy and to live your life in a positive aspect. Consistency is the evidence of whether respect and responsibility are truly being lived out. Respect, responsibility, results. How does it show up in everyday life? How does it show up in your relationships? When you respect one another, you have communication and you're open and honest. Responsibility, it shows up with consistency, being consistent in who you are, in your authentic self. And then results. Trust either grows or it breaks. And in time, that will reveal who each individual really is. In health, respect your body. Eat, move, rest intentionally. Those are the responsibilities that you have to do in order to take care of yourself. And then the results will show. You'll have energy, you'll have strength, you'll have healing and lack of if you don't take care of yourself. And then in work environments and in goals that you have yourself, respect. Focus on what matters. Don't focus on the negativity, the things that are energy vampires that suck out your energy. Be responsible. Execute daily, even if you don't feel like it. Remember, consistency is key, and breaking those patterns is how you are going to make your mind know what patterns are to stick, what are supposed to be done, so that you could get the goals that you want. And then results. Progress becomes visible. If you keep going to the gym, if you keep working on your work goals, if you keep pushing towards whatever consistency and goal that you have in mind, the progress will show and it will be visible. So respect, responsibility, results.